Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and tonight I am proud to bring you Living Theurgy. And we have theurgists Brandy Williams, Tony Mierzwicki, and the one and only Apollonius with us tonight. And we're going to be dreaming together about the future of our Living Theurgy conversation. So stay tuned, and we will start clockwise with Apollonius. Greetings, Apollonius. How are you?
Well, I'm very good, thank you. So yeah, it's I mean, aside from the weather being kind of crazy, things are going well.
I'm very glad to hear that. Tony Mierzwicki, how are things with you?
Things are going really well, thanks for asking. Weather here is quite good, although we have had a bit of rain.
We had rain here as well, but otherwise it's been pretty stable. And Brandy, how are you?
Things are going well here, and I'll see your rain and match you with floods. I'm in the Pacific Northwest, and I keep getting these warnings that things are flooded. And when they say things, they mean the parking lot I need to park in. So it's pretty wet here.
Wow.
Yeah, I attended a town meeting the other day, and actually it was, I think, a Democratic committee meeting, and they were talking about how we've increased in the dangers of flooding here in this area, and that nothing they built is prepared to really handle this. Ida, we got flooded. We had like 3-4 feet of water in our basement. So that's going to keep happening, they said. So they're making changes and they're bringing consultants. So yeah, it's a big thing. I'm excited about some of the changes that are coming, and I'm always excited when we cooperate on different shows other than our Theurgy conversation. And Tony has a show coming up this Sunday, Living OLYMPUS, which will have as its guest Apollonius. What are you guys going to talk about?
We're going to talk about Apollonius's latest text, the Tablet of Thebes. I've read it. I've really enjoyed it. I'm halfway through writing a review of it. And on a personal note, I'd like to see everything translated, everything made available to everyone. So I'm very grateful that Apollonius has translated another text for us to enjoy and incorporate into our daily practices. The exciting thing about it is, as he points out, it's designed to be interpreted on 4 different levels, not just the literal level. So it's quite a good read.
And without spoiling anything for your interview on Sunday, Apollonius, is there any little tidbit you can give us to...
Well, yeah, I don't know what to say, but yeah, one thing I will say is that the book that I just had published that Tony has looked at is just the text with a little bit of introduction from me where I talk about those 4 levels, and then it's just the actual text, the ancient text of the Tablet of Thebes. What I'm working on now, and is pretty near done, is a commentary on it, which especially explores the symbolic meaning of the text. So a lot of the things that you would kind of have to just, discover for yourself, I'm laying a lot of that out. So it's about the same size as the original text. The original text is, I think, 89 pages or something like that. And so with the commentary, it'll be something over 200 pages.
Oh, wow.
So that's pretty exciting. And so the text is all done. I just finished proofreading it again today. So I'm making some last minute changes and stuff to that. And, I've got a lot of formatting stuff because it's another self-published book. So you have to do all that work yourself. You don't have a publisher to do the book design and all that kind of stuff for you. So I'm still have that to do. But so that should be, coming out before too long.
Awesome.
And I also, I think I let you all know that I did a reprint of Kenneth Sylvan Guthrie's Pagan Bible, which is a little bit of a deceptive title, but that's what he gave it. And it's a collection of texts, mostly Neoplatonic, more or less, texts, Pythagorean texts, ancient Greek texts, and Roman texts, in any case, having to do with daimons, basically. So he says angels, ancient and modern, but it basically has to do with diamonds. It's all of the sort of classical texts about diamonds.
I'm looking forward to reading that. And so you hinted today, but you talked about it a little bit last time, and I'm sure we're going to dwell on it much more in future conversations. But you're starting your own imprint, which is amazing and incredible, and really excited about that.
Well, yeah, and I mean it's fortunately, the technology is there now to do decent quality print-on-demand books. And this has always been the problem with a lot of these ancient texts, is, as Tony was saying, we really need translations and commentaries on many of them, scholarly studies that help us to understand them. The market for these things is very small. And so the publishers that publish these texts, most of their sales are to libraries, and the only way they can really recoup their costs is to charge enormous fees. It's
Yeah.
kind of a joke in the community that's interested in this thing about Brill books, that they just cost hundreds of dollars each, even for relatively small books. But it's really valuable stuff because there's a lot of good scholarship taking place now in ancient paganism and ancient theurgy, and many of the ancient spiritual traditions, Gnosticism and the Chaldean oracles and Hermeticism and all of this kind of stuff. Many of us are used to using books from 100 years ago or more. I mean, Thomas Taylor's translations from the early 1800s, and Kenneth Sylvan Guthrie's stuff from around the turn of the 20th century. And, a lot of excellent work was done, and those books are available now either online or as reprints. And that's very, very nice because it's inexpensive. But it's, there's 100 years of scholarship that new manuscripts have been discovered. All sorts of new stuff has been discovered, and just rethinking too. That was still very much in the age when scholars looked down on anything magical.
Mhm.
And so even if they, believed it or thought it was at least, worthwhile, they would still felt obliged to kind of denigrate it. And sometimes they missed the point too, just because they were looking at it from very sort of a very scientific, materialistic viewpoint. So modern scholars, by and large, are much smarter than that. They don't have those blinders on, I guess it's a better way to put it. And so they are able to understand the text more in the way it's intended. And so this modern scholarship is really quite valuable, and that's why I like to hang out with those people too. But the books are expensive, so I think to some degree self-publishing will help to or the ability to have print-on-demand books, so you don't have to try and recoup the cost of a whole print run
Right.
in order to justify it. I think is going to make some of these things, some of the books we want, much more available.
So these are exciting times. The Library of Alexandria might have burned, but we have all this coming up now and being made accessible to anybody who'd like to read it.
Yes, exactly.
One more thing with Apollonius before we move on to Brandy is Apollonius and I are planning a special, which I'm hoping will lead to the Apollonius show, but we won't tell Apollonius. Thank you, Apollonius. Lots to look forward to.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
And last but not least, Brandy Williams, who not only is also launching an imprint, but she is starting a show on Wednesday, Witchcraft and Theurgy, which is our first official spin-off, or the branch leaving the tree. You want to tell us about that, Brandy?
Yes, I'm very excited about that. As I was writing a piece about Theurgy, I realized that I sort of approached it like, how do we do theurgy in the modern world? And witches have a procedure called drawing down the moon. So witches do engage in theurgy, and many pagans, in fact, do, carrying deity of one kind or another.
Mhm.
But when I started talking to people about it, there was this sort of line drawn. It's like, well, they're witches, they're not theurgists. I'm like, yeah, I'm a witch and a theurgist, and they're really pretty much the same thing here. We've tended to kind of specialize in our magics a great deal. To have just this geezer moment. When I started as a witch, there were like 5 books, and you read those books, and then you had to go and learn something else. So I learned ceremonial magic, and I went into history, as many of us did. Now, of course, we have. There's no way a person could read every single book written about witchcraft, even in a month that gets published. So it's a very exciting time to
Yes.
exist, for sure. But I think one of the things that gets lost is the connections between the kinds of magics that we do. And witchcraft and theurgy is definitely a place where these two magics are very similar. That the kind of theurgy that witches do actually comes off of ceremonial magic and off of the ancient current. And it's a direct connection. I'm very excited because my very first guest on Wednesday is Don Frew, who wrote a paper about witchcraft and theurgy. So he's a strong proponent of that too. He's a Gardnerian priest. He his whole coven at one point read one of Gregory Shaw's books, the Theurgy and the Soul, I think it was. So they take that very seriously, and I'm very interested in how he will help to sort of articulate this connection between witchcraft and theurgy. So. And I have another guest lined up in February, Dr. Megan Rose, which is awesome. I'm still working on timing for other guests, but we'll get started.
I have some people who'd like to be on your show that are associated with things that we're doing. One is Setna Conwest. Tony has spoken with him. And locally, he's very well known. He's like an elder in the witchcraft tradition, even though he's primarily Ptolemaic Egyptian in the things that he does. He's also been influenced by the Greek current, and he's very well known in these parts. All the old time witchcraft folk from like the Warlock Shop or Magical Child, it was later called, they all know him, and a lot of the folks I've had on know who he is too. So he'd be a very interesting person to speak to. And then we have Star and Ravenhawk that Tony talked about last time when he went to the Witches Fest 2022. And then there's Joanne Gajewski, who's part of the Witches Fest also. She is a witch who follows a Hellenistic tradition, she described it. So these are folks, again, that know about theurgy, and they're interested in speaking with you. So just some more names to add to your
Oh, that's
list.
fantastic. Yeah, send me contact information. And I'm still chasing Jason Mankey and trying to nail. He theoretically agrees. We just haven't found a date. Of course, there's Cleo Ajana, who we're hoping to bring onto this program. So I'd like to bring her too. And that almost fills up our year. So we'll get them on the calendar. And the way the show works, actually, so Hercules is announcing that we're doing it on Wednesday. What we actually do is we tape on a given day of the month, and then Hercules will put it up. I'll also link to it. I'll link on my webpage, brandywilliamsauthor.com, and I'll also link to a playlist on my YouTube channel, which is Brandy Williams Author. So
Okay, great.
As soon as you get it up.
As soon as I get what up?
The interview. So we tape, we're not live. We record.
No, like now we'll record and they'll put it up on YouTube whenever you like.
Yeah. And then just a note to Apollonius. Apollonius, you continue to say you self-publish, which I think is too modest. You have become a publisher. You have now reprinted Guthrie. So now you got to cop to it. You're an actual publisher, and I'm so excited. I think it's a great thing. I mean, the Pythagorean Pentagram Press, that could be an imprint that really does encourage other people to do those kinds of translations as well. Like maybe we can elbow Patrick and see what he's got in the closet, right?
Yeah. I
Patrick
certainly would not object to any publishing somebody else. Yeah, absolutely.
I will have news on that front from things that I'm involved in, but it's a little bit premature. But things seem to be configuring themselves where I'm more involved with occult presses. Zontar Press is currently carrying my astral experiments and things like that. And a publisher that published a lot of my work, the publisher died, but his family has the press, and they told me that they'd like to speak to me very soon. So something with publishing there. But anyway, so I might have some news on that front too. And Brandy opened up a topic that I was going to move to next, introducing new people. Patrick's been on, I believe, a couple of times, so I'd like to invite Patrick. And Brandy suggested Cleo, so I'd like to invite Cleo first so we can get the process rolling. What I was thinking was that that we could do this off the air. Somebody wants to propose to introduce somebody, just send an email to everybody to see if everybody's okay with it, or, you know, because when I initially, Brandy gave me a list of people to speak to, and, you know, you're all here, and other people gave me lists as well. And some of the theurgists I spoke to were very contentious. So I really didn't want to have a conversation with, you know, people arguing with each other. You know, I much rather prefer like friendly conversations. So I didn't invite them to be part of what we're doing. So if anybody wants anybody to join the conversation, I'm game. Everybody here is game. So again, just email everybody to see if anybody has an objection or something to share, and then we'll just schedule it. If everybody's okay with it, we'll schedule it and invite them to come join us, and we'll just make a list. I believe one person per conversation would be good, rather than having too many people. And that the first focus, will have like a statement prepared about what we're all about to describe to the audience as well as to the new person. And then the rest of the show will be dedicated to them presenting, you know, their thoughts and so forth. And we can ask them questions to get to know them a little better, or if they want to ask us questions, and we'll do that. So those are my thoughts. Any thoughts out there?
I did have one more, which is that as we go through our shows and meet people who might fit here, we can, that's a source for people to bring on. And I'm thinking in particular of Don Frew, who has gone to Theurgicon. That was where all of us met each other except for you, Hercules. So that would be a source of people. And also that we should probably cap the number of people we try to talk to at on any one show, right?
Right.
So, but we all sort of cycle through. I mean, we've had four to six people. So having more people available is actually not a bad thing. I mean, we can take more breaks, right?
Right. You can take more breaks, and again, that's something we could discuss. You know, off scene, and just basically you know, take it from there. And if I have something to do then also, which is not going to happen very often, but if I do, whoever would like to take the lead on that show, I'll give you the passwords, you know, and you can run the show without me. So that'd be fine too. Okay, anybody have any other ideas about that particular item in the agenda?
I've just got a couple of brief thoughts. First thing is, I think it's really exciting. There are 2 more imprints starting up. The problem with mainstream publishers is that they're very profit driven. So they want to see a book make a lot of money. In the case of books on theurgy, they probably won't generate a lot of money. So we need publishers on hand who are prepared to take a chance. So there could well be people out there. I'm a great believer in bringing as many people onto the show as possible, because everyone has their own contribution to make.
Right.
And regarding Don Frew, I was absolutely blown away by that lecture that Brandy and I saw. He basically showed parallels between theurgy and Gardnerian witchcraft, and it was all new to me at the time. He's an absolutely amazing speaker, and I can't wait to hear him talk again. It's been a long time since I've seen him.
I'm looking forward to it too. And I'm going to have the next branch off. And I haven't come up with a real name for it. My favorite so far is Living Theurgy, Archons and Aeons. as the name, but I don't know if that's what it'll eventually be. But I have a lot of connections with the neo-theosophical UFO or cosmic spirituality people. So some of what they do is theurgy as well. And my role among these groups has been to show them how the channeled information that they've been getting from their space gods or space brothers is actually very old, and it's been recorded. So they're unaware that they've tuned into the Theosophy radio station in the astral or wherever it happens to be, and that they're spewing forth the same stuff that's been broadcast on these channels wherever they are, whatever they are, since the dawn of time. So I've been kind of introducing it, and some of them have gotten very receptive to listening to that now and looking at some of the source material. So that's going to be those conversations. And in terms of what they're talking to, I've received confirmations from several people, with messages for me, and be they ceremonial magicians, be they cosmic spirituality people, be they people having dreams. So I am talking to some entities that are working through those type of things. And like anything else, each group is slightly different. Some of them are very suspicious of other groups. So, but we're working through that slowly. And I have a handful of groups that are communicating fairly often now, even though they believe totally different, ways of interpreting what it is that they're experiencing, what it is exactly that they're doing. So that's very exciting to me. And it seems like a natural next step in the progression of those conversations. So I'm excited. And Tony and Apollonius, if you want to branch off with something else, I'm sure I'll love the idea. You're both very creative, and I admire you both. And I've learned a lot from both of you. So dream big. Let's see. I guess we'll go on and see if anybody wants to bring anything up, and then I'm going to talk about the Age of Heroes. So we'll continue with our clockwise rotation. Apollonius, anything you'd like to talk about or discuss or introduce tonight?
Well, not especially. I think I sort of all of the news and projects I'm working on right now, I pretty much said that earlier, but I would, like to point out that, you're talking about, the UFO communications and all that kind of stuff that Jung pointed out a long time ago, that basically these channels sort of are represented in whatever way is most communicative for us. So, in ancient times, the gods were in their chariots in the sky. And, we don't think in those terms anymore. Now these superior beings or whatever are in flying saucers, or they have some sort of other technological kind of a way of manifesting to us, and we understand them in those terms. So this is a very it's a very reasonable thing that people just need to understand, that there's one of the Chaldean oracles that says where the goddess Hecate says, we put on these forms, these shapes,
Yes,
your benefit, because they don't have bodies like we do. And so I think that the UFOs and some of the other things like that are just, that's the way that's acceptable to a lot of people now. For gods, of course, they don't like to call them gods, especially if they're monotheists, but, some sort of superior beings, ascended masters or aliens, whatever, some sort of superior beings. This is a more acceptable way for them to appear. And so, I think that's very, very reasonable. And, hopefully they most of them can see the truth in that also, and don't get too tied into the particular details of their own particular symbolic system any more than we do, whether it's ceremonial magic or Neoplatonism or Tibetan Buddhism or something else.
Yeah, I deliberately called my journey through that Hercules and the Space Gods, and that actually caught on, and somebody wrote an article about it, uh, that turns out to be a topic people want me to talk about. Like I'm going to talk at the Disclosure Network soon, and some Masons were talking about inviting me to their lodge to talk about this too. So it's the popular way of looking at it, but you're absolutely right that it's the same. And my topic that they asked, it was going to be on basically like in Greek mythology, the gods are beings of light with Semele and Dionysus.
Mhm.
These beings confess too to being beings of light beyond our comprehension, and they can appear as animals, they can appear as humans, they can appear as people they could talk to you in dreams. They don't necessarily tell you the truth at all times, but they will communicate with you. So all of these things are known even like from Edith Hamilton. So the occult texts and the scholar texts reinforce that. So anyway, I don't want to keep talking about this. We'll make that the focus of a show later on. Tony, do you have anything you'd like to say or share or focus on?
Yeah, one thing that really jumped out at me was when you pointed out that a lot of people who are tapping into space gods are actually rehashing ancient wisdom, but not
Mhm.
realizing that they're
Right.
doing it. And the fact that they're not realizing that they're doing it actually gives it far more credibility. If they're knowingly rehashing it, then I'd have my doubts. But if it's something that's absolutely new to them, then it is quite exciting. The other thing that I wanted to point out was talking about alien abductions.
Mhm.
People have drawn parallels between alien abductions, abductions by fairies in medieval times, abduction by demons, and in Islamic countries, interactions with the jinn.
Mhm.
So it looks like we're dealing with a common phenomenon. So if there's wisdom to be tapped into, it makes sense that it's not just something that we can extract from the space gods, but it's something that we would have from ancient times as well.
Oh, very true. And again, I'm tempted. I'll keep it short. Basically, one of the things I talk about a lot in my lectures is the bedroom visitor phenomenon, where there are shadows that are darker than the darkness in your room, and it moves, and you could feel it looking at you. And if you try to stare at it too long, it tells you to go to sleep, that everything's okay, and then you fall asleep, unless you fight it. And you can fight it. It takes a few minutes and they'll leave. But that phenomenon is universal. And every time I hold lectures, somebody in the audience is going to ask me about that after the talk, because these things can get very sexual in their interactions with people. But what are they? Are they satyrs? Are they philetti? Are they incubi and succubi? Are they UFO aliens? Are they ghosts? Are they demons? Are they jinn? Every mythological symbolic system has a way of explaining them because they're so common. But the explanations are all different, so they can't all be right. So the phenomenon continues, and the MO is the same everywhere, and it has been throughout time. But the explanations are different. Therefore, we believe we're looking at different phenomenon. We're actually the same phenomenon.
What you're talking about sounds a lot like the shadow people that meth
Yes.
addicts see.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like methamphetamine opens a portal to infernal dimensions and these really nasty, shadowy creatures.
In
I mean, just
Greece,
from what I've read, I can't talk from experience.
in Greece, they're known as skies, which means shadows. And Greece was under Ottoman occupation for 400 years. So the skies that I grew up with and experiencing them, not only just hearing about them, my family folklore has a lot of skies tied in it. But they're very much like the jinn that the Ottoman believe in. They're people like us. They're subtler. They can see us, but we can't always see them. They get married. They have families, and But again, that's just a cultural explanation of them. So what they really are, we don't know. And Brandy, anything
I,
you'd
I
like to focus on?
I have a couple of things. We have another name for the visitors in the night, which is vampires. And there's that whole
Yes.
thing about vampires showing up. There's a very sexual kind of thing, right, with vampires. And I will say that I really love Hercules, the way that you ask us to expand our understandings and push against sort of boundaries and crossover between groups. And I have an anecdote about this. I was at a large pagan festival, witchcraft festival, where the priestess in the middle of the circle, there's like 300 of us in a field, and she stops and she goes, "Wait, I'm getting a transmission." And she began to talk about the space aliens who were talking through us, and everybody kind of drifted off. And later we exchanged information, and they said, if she had just said she was channeling the goddess, we would have listened to her.
Yep.
Right? That's it exactly. So I think this is a wonderful topic. I think we should continue on this. I learned a lot. I hadn't really thought about any of these things. I think it's a lovely topic. Were we on what we're doing?
Yeah, if there's anything you'd like to share or promote or focus on.
Yeah, I tomorrow actually I'm doing the first of the online initiations for Sisters of Shashat, which I'm very excited about. We've finished our final rehearsal. There are 7 priestesses who have signed up for this, and I would like to propose that actually as a topic of conversation for one of our discussions after we introduce all the new people, which is how you do virtual work. I've done a lot of virtual work in the tantric traditions with both Hindu and tantric teachers, which got me thinking that I could do it in this context. And so I'll have a report on how it went. And my coven, of course, has been meeting on Zoom through the pandemic. Off and on, we meet in person. But if one of us, has an isolation, we go back to Zoom. So we've got some processes for how to work with the energy. And I think that would be a really fun thing to talk about.
I think so too. Let's make that our next official discussion. Is that okay with everybody?
Mm-hmm.
And you again introduced something I could segue into very quickly. Back when we had the Barbarian Bazaar, later on the Olympian Marketplace or Mount Olympus Marketplace in Pennsylvania, we had a class room. So I used to do talks back there, and we called it our Athenaeum. And an Athenaeum is kind of like a combination of a museum and a library, and I've called things that I've done that are instructional Athenaeum since in honor of Athena mostly. Not my Athena, but the Athena. I'm thinking now of creating an Athenaeum virtually, where we can teach classes if we want to. So I have a handful of people who teach classes, and we're going to make an experiment, see if people would like to, we could charge for the classes too. Where if people want to learn about a particular topic, and then we can learn from other people who are doing this. They seem to archive these, and then people who are members can access all the old shows. So also they make like secret channels. So I invite you all to this adventure if you'd like to be a part of it. And right now it's in the idea and talking stage, but my goal is to make it a reality by like mid-year, to start it at least. So you're all invited to do that. And I'd like to also invite you to the Age of Heroes. That's something I've been doing in my world, publicly for the most part. And the first one I did on a large scale was during the beginning of the digital divide, like the late 90s, when people were getting computers, and it was creating a new underclass of people who didn't have computers, weren't computer literate. Bill Gates eventually solved the problem by giving computers to libraries, but before Bill Gates solved the problem, I started something in Brooklyn, and we had a bunch of individuals and nonprofit organizations and people who couldn't dedicate holy work to anything, and I'd let them. So we had people dedicating what they were doing to not only traditional religions, but to the ancient gods, to UFO space gods, to vampire lords, to the devil. If you wanted to do something good for other people and you wanted to do it officially in the name of your higher being, I would welcome them. And the myth was the voyage of the Argo, because on the Argo you had the sons of many gods who were warring with each other, and as well as people who weren't descended from gods or part god, or but they were all joined in the common purpose of getting the golden fleece and returning it with Jason to Yolko. So here, it was everybody, regardless of what God you believe in, or if you don't believe in any God, whatever, whatever you wanted to dedicate it to, as long as it was good for other people, it was welcome. And we had it at that point, like we had a comic strip in Big News, and I created a few specials on my TV show. I had a TV show back then. And we started knighting people. I would bring a sword and like knight them for doing good in the community. And I've recently discussed this with the council in my town, and they were willing to entertain this, where people are focusing on improving the health of our community. I'm going to go there with like if I could find an olive club, that'd be ideal. But if not, make do with something else. And like knighting them, we'll take pictures and put them on a website and all this other thing. But the Age of Heroes, I'm focusing on health. And primarily because I'm focused on health. I'm getting older, so health has become more of an issue. And also, I've always loved exercising and lifting weights and doing things like that. Tony's come on one of the shows and talked about men's menopause and
the male menopause. Yeah.
menopause. And he's talked about what he does to stay healthy. So I'd like to invite you guys, if you'd like to talk about your health regimen, whatever it is. And people have been on there who are like, Christians, and their exercise informed by prayer. And we had more traditional people and unconventional people, but it's a journey, and we're just having conversations. We're not selling anything, it's just, what do you do to stay healthy? So if you guys want to share what you do to stay healthy and stay happy and joyous in life, then you're more than welcome to. And also, like I'm interviewing people like who do this. And if you guys want to recognize anybody in your community, and you can define community any way you want. So one of your circle of friends, one member of your coven, of some group you belong to, of locally the people in your town. If you too would like to recognize somebody who is doing something to help people with their health, I'd be more than happy to schedule a special and you can interview them. I think you're off, Brandy. Are you muted?
I was.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
But I was just thinking that I could come and talk about Hygeia, and it reminded me of something that I should announce, that I'm on the Water Priestess Conference on March 24th. It's 24th through 26th, so I'll post that to my Instagram. And anyone can come. You don't have to be a priestess, but that's something that I've definitely been focused on, working in specifically. I think we've talked about this ad infinitum with Hygeia. Yeah.
Yeah. You got it.
Yeah, and maybe Apollonius can give us the Homeric again. Yeah, you're muted now too.
Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, so
Upsilon, but a hard G. Of course, I don't know, maybe closer to the modern Greek gamma. I shouldn't say G gamma, and accent on the E after the gamma. So huyi, a. Now I should say that there's a bunch of different forms of the word in different ancient Greek dialects. Some of them have 5 syllables, some of them have 4 syllables, or 3 syllables, I should say. So yeah, that something like that.
That was true even during my childhood, where if you went like 2 towns over, you could hardly understand what they were talking about.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I was in an online course where we were reading Plato's Phaedrus, and there were some native Greek speakers there, in fact, teaching the course. And so we were talking about the accent, and he said that I forget where he was from, but where he was from, he said, other Greeks describe him as having a very musical accent. And of course, that's what the Homeric accent was. It was a tonal accent, like in some ways like Chinese. And so I forget which island he was from, but that tonal accent has been at least partially preserved, whereas I don't think it's really there at all in sort of the I don't know what you call it, but sort of the mainland Greek. modern Greek. I don't know. What do you think, Hercules? Do you is there a tonal feel to the accent? Does the pitch rise?
It's different for every town. Usually the letters are pronounced like slightly differently, like some people trill their R's, for instance. And the words can be phenomenally different. Like in Greek, the word for wheel is rhoda, but and that means wheel. But where I come from, it's called katrakili, which means something that rolls. so basically, when we're talking about wheels, it's katrakili. And growing up in America, there was Gringlish. And basically, they would talk about the flori, which is the floor. Refrigerata, the refrigerator. So you had like all these mixed things. And I suspect that's how it was in antiquity too. The surrounding areas would influence language. But before they could travel around, again, you go 2-3 towns over and it's like being in a different country. You wouldn't really, you'd have to really listen and get used to their cadences and how they pronounce letters and knowing that not all the words are going to be the same.
Yeah, and I think we have to assume that that's really the way all languages have been, and it's printing, of course, to some degree, and then especially mass communication like radio and TV that tends to create more uniformity in the different varieties of the languages.
Yeah, they had Dimotiki, which was the common language, and that came out of Athens. And that started spreading with radio and television, the correct pronunciation of Dimotiki. And then they had Katharevusa, which was the formal version of the language.
Yeah.
So that's where you talk in plurals, and it got confusing. Greece for a time was under military dictatorship. And I was someplace, I don't remember where, but there was a sign that says, "Apogorevete diavasis ton gramon, kindinos thanatos." And in the Dimotiki, that means it is forbidden to read these sentences, danger, death. And I was really concerned because, again, they were under the junta, so who knows? You can't read signs. But it meant it is forbidden to cross upon these tracks. Danger, death, so that's what it turned out to be. But the words that they used were but that is the interesting phenomenon. Dance too is a language of its own, and that's very common. And there were all sorts of, like, the snake dances, the tsiptateli, and the words to the music were very blasphemous. That the demons are coming and dancing the snake dance, and even the angels sneak down from heaven to dance the snake dance. And I think we covered dances at one point in one of the shows. Yeah,
we might have, because I was involved with dancing Greek dances in my hometown, and I probably mentioned it. Yeah.
So anything other than
Really cool
shows which are coming within the next week, anything coming within the next few months? I guess we'll start with Apollonius again.
Well, I plan to submit some proposals to our sort of Southeast US version of Pantheacon called Mystic South. I did a couple presentations there last year, and so I'll be going again next year, hopefully, assuming that they take my presentations. And I have actually submitted to WitchCon. I haven't heard back from them, so I don't know if that's a no from them or whether they're still pondering my proposals for that. So that would be coming up in the next few months as well. So that's, I guess those are the two main things for me, aside from the sort of the publishing activity I'm doing right now.
That is exciting. And I don't know why they would turn down your proposal.
Well, they've got their own, sort of emphasis, and they've probably got lots of good proposals too. So, that's okay. I've been rejected before.
Well, I am biased. Tony, how about you?
I actually will be presenting at WitchCon, and I can't believe that they didn't get back to Apollonius, because he's of the sort of caliber that they would want at an event like this. It's March 3rd to 5th. It's online. They have speakers from all over the world. I can't believe they didn't get back to him. Apollonius, you should probably contact Christian Day and ask him what's going on. I mean, you
Okay.
deserve to have a response one way or the other.
Well, I didn't know whether they did respond one way or the other, so that's good. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, you want to know one way or the other, you know, because you're in limbo at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And time's getting short too.
Yeah.
And Tony, do you have anything? I know you're going to have several blog posts at least on the Pathos blog.
Yeah, I just keep cranking out blog posts. I'm fortunate to have Apollonius on the show this Sunday to talk about the tablet of Kerbase. And I'm not sure who I'm going to have on next month, but yeah, there are a number of other, what I normally do is I review a book and then interview the author. That system seems to work well for me. So I've got a couple of books which I need to review. So it comes down to whoever agrees to talk to me. So yeah, I've been rejected too, Apollonius, so don't feel too bad. I've had 3 people so far who have stood me up and decided they didn't want to be interviewed by me. So it happens.
Yeah, it happens, but there's so many people who do want to talk to you that someone else will be found. The other people's
Absolutely.
lost. That's all that you can say.
Yeah.
And Brandy, how about you? You're doing a lot. You have the initiations coming up. You've launched an imprint. You're working on your own projects. You're traveling from park to park, writing.
Oh, you must be one of the 3 people who looks at my films.
Yes.
Yeah, I have to get out of the house. I have to get out of the house. So what I do is I go to state parks and I one day a week and write. I go set up my little my laptop in the van and go, and it's wonderful, even if it's raining, right? Which it often is. Yeah, so I mentioned the Water Priestess conference. I'm hoping to get out. I actually plan to travel this summer if I can arrange my personal life to do it, to Babylon Rising if it happens. So that'll be in June, which is really exciting. And I'm listening to the conferences. I'm looking for another conference like PantheaCon. Maybe I was thinking about Paganicon, maybe not this year, but we used to meet physically at PantheaCon. I really missed that. So I'm really hoping that one of these conferences will be a place that we can all kind of go together. And Paganicon a good choice because it's in Llewellyn's hometown, so we can drop in on our publisher.
Yeah, Jean-Louis had wanted during the process of getting the book published for us eventually to head out there on a pilgrimage and meet. That'd be awesome.
Be great. Yep. So yep, lots of stuff. BrandyWilliamsAuthor.com is where you can find a list of what I am doing.
And I'd like to again extend the invitation. If you guys are publishing anything or appearing any place or talking anywhere or doing anything, if I come across it by accident, I'll post it. But if you let me know in a personal message or an email, I'll make sure to post it with whatever links you'd like me to provide. And this way, just help spread the word.
Thank you very much for that. That's so important just to get the word out.
And I'm looking forward. I believe I sent everybody the latest version of my draft. I don't know if Jean-Louis got it. I asked him, but he hasn't answered me yet. But I'm really looking forward to this adventure. This is very exciting, and I'm looking forward to its continuance. And I've been told that I'll have to rewrite everything several times, so I'm prepared. I'm prepared for that. Jean-Louis will be next, I'm assuming, his edit. Okay. Anybody want to leave our audience with any things to think about until the next time we get together? No? Okay.
We're flunking the pop quiz.
I would like to leave everybody with a thought. Speak, talk to people. You'll be surprised at what a great time you'll have and how much you'll learn and how much you'll look forward to future conversations. I really look forward to each of our conversations, and I treasure them, and they provide the source for many a meditation and many a contemplation, and the conversation continues, and I'm very blessed to have that. So yes, my fingers are too clumsy to text, and I keep forgetting to look at text, but I see people pressing buttons all the time and, you know, communicate each other via screens. And although that is necessary, and that is, it's great to have another way of communicating, you're alive. This is life, and there are wonderful people in life. So take a few minutes out of each day and just talk to people and enjoy the conversation. And those are my thoughts. Thank you, everybody. You're incredible. You're awesome. I look forward to all of your projects, and I look forward to our next conversation. Be well.
Be well.
Be well.
And I'll just press the end button because I still haven't figured out the buttons.